Welcome to the Black to School podcast, where two or more are gathered, anything is possible. I'm one of your hosts, Hughes.
And I'm your other host, Kedar, representing that Norfolk State. This podcast is to highlight successful stories of students that are currently at an HBCU, alumni of an HBCU, or affiliated with an HBCU. So make sure you tune in weekly.
Hey, give it up for our resident DJ 7 Trey.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Black to School podcast, where two or more are gathered. Anything, and when I say anything, I mean anything is possible. I'm Kedar.
And I'm your boy Hughes. Look, it's been an amazing week. So what's been going on with you, Kedar?
Man, I'm tired, bro. When I say I'm tired, I had one of my lead employees find another job. So I literally have 5 phones that I've been managing, and I'm just trying to figure it out. But here's what's really going on with me. I'm at a point in my business where I got computers and offices and phones and this and that. I could sell it all. And so, you know what? We had a good run. We had a really good run.
Right.
But this is one of those pivotal moments in my life where I am demanding myself not to quit. Because if I quit on $1, it's not like if you gave me 10, I still don't have a quitting spirit. I still got a quitting spirit.
Right.
So I got to learn how to not quit while holding on, while doing it for $1. So when I have $10 and something happens, I don't quit on it there either. So it's tough, but it's rewarding to see myself. Like sometimes I look at myself from the outside looking in, like to see myself fight, literally fight and strategically come up with ways to keep the business alive. Like it's great for my insides. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get to thrive and show your resilience.
Show my resilience to myself.
Yeah.
I gotta prove it to myself. Like I've had moments in life in which I had to make a decision, and a lot of times when I look back on some parts of my life, like I quit on a lot of parts of life, bro. But I know I know in my core I'm not a quitter.
Right.
In my core, I'm not a quitter. So this is one of those times I'm proving to myself to be true.
But and this is not in reference to your current situation, but sometimes we all have a season that some things either have to end, or some people just can't come along with us. So in a sense, I know you said that you've had quitting situations in the past, but sometimes it's just a time for a new season.
No, I mean I can receive that, but I also need to recognize that I could have sucked some shit up and did better.
Yeah, we always have those moments where we're like, man, I could have done better. But I think it goes to the character of certain people. Like you never feel like you've arrived. You always feel like you.
Now, here's what I really feel like. I really feel like there's a thin line between good and great. And I think consistency races the line between good and great. And if we do something consistent enough, sometimes our greatest asset is to just do it longer than anybody else.
Right.
Because at some point, like, I mean, you got to keep going. Like, if I say right now, I'm not going to keep going, it's going to be somebody that comes along.
Right.
2 years from now, that's going to blow whatever position I had off the water. If I just held on and kept going.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So sometimes we want that instant gratification, but a lot of times what we don't understand is that a lot of the great ones, you know, we think it's like an instant success, but you know, it's some people it's like a 5 to 20-year journey. We're just watching it in the end result,
right?
But we don't see all of the struggles, you know, part of the process, you know. So,
man, I'm excited about today.
Yeah.
We got a great young man.
Yeah.
From the Hampton Road area, Dr. Antwan Perry. He's the senior policy analyst for higher education and workforce with the National Education Association, also known as NEA. He's been in higher ed for 15 years, graduated from Hampton, poli-sci major. He worked as an adjunct professor as well. Let me see. Let me just talk from the heart about this young man. Can I talk to the heart for the people?
Go ahead.
This young man is in higher ed, but his bigger calling is to normalize Black men in higher ed. He wrote his dissertation on about Black scholars within education, Black men within education, and his passion is to make sure Black men are recognized in higher ed and to figure out what they did as success stories so that we can model it afterwards. We're excited to have him. Frat brother, okay?
Yeah.
Frat brother.
Yo.
From the Hampton Roads area. Give it up for Dr. Antwan Perry.
Welcome, Dr. Perry.
Appreciate it.
What's up, man? Look, Dr. Perry, we like to start up. Antwan, Dr. Perry, which one?
Antwan's good.
Antwan.
Okay.
We like to start off every podcast with this question. So far, what is your greatest achievement?
Wow. Greatest achievement. I'll probably say my greatest achievement is when I graduated from Hampton University back in 2003. And the reason that I say that is because if you know about HBCUs, you know, people say like Hampton people are bougie or whatever. So I remember we were at graduation. I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia, so I didn't come from no bouginess. Right. But I remember like they made this announcement when we had our departmental or our School of Liberal Arts ceremony. They made this announcement, you know, please hold your applause until the end. So, you know, I'm like, I've adjusted to this bouginess. So I was like, I hope my family don't be clapping, like, please be quiet. So I remember, you know, they went through all the names. And once they got to my name, they were like, Antwan Lamont Perry. And all I heard was clapping. And I was like, wow. And I turned around and it was my mom. But then when I saw her, she had like the most amazing, you know how Rick James had a glow? What Charlie Murphy said, Rick James had a glow. Like my mom had this aura of happiness. And I have literally never seen her more happy in my life. So I tied that towards my greatest achievement because I was able to make my mom proud.
That's what's up. Like that joy, like that pure joy.
Yep, absolutely.
Man, that's amazing. So you already told us. Tell us again in case they missed it. What HBCU are you repping?
I am repping Hampton University, which was founded in 1868 by Brigadier General Samuel Chapman Armstrong. Hampton University, located in Hampton, Virginia, about 300 acres of one of the most beautiful campuses
you've ever been on, surrounded on 3 sides by water. As you can tell, I also used to work for the Office of Admissions, so I got all that stuff still in my repertoire. But yeah, definitely, I went to Hampton University, and loved every minute of it.
Man, that's what's up.
Well, I'm glad you brought all that information, because yeah, I actually went on campus. Not that it was my first time, but I went on campus this summer. Didn't know that there was so much history on the campus, and I found a tree. Of course, seeing the statue of Booker T.
Yep.
So Hampton has a lot of history, and that was one of our hanging spots when we were in undergrad, but did not even know that there was like
bougie women.
Right.
Didn't know that there was so much Black history, not even just Black history, but just American history on that campus itself. So it's glad that you
absolutely
brought that up.
As you mentioned, the Emancipation Oak, which is one of the world's great trees. That's where the Emancipation Proclamation was read for the first time in the South, underneath that particular tree. Also, Booker T. Washington is known as our most illustrious graduate. So I believe he graduated in 1875. And then last little bit of Black Jeopardy for you. After the Montgomery bus boycott, Rosa Parks was not able to secure employment anywhere in the South. And she actually worked as a hostess at our faculty dining facility on campus after the Montgomery bus boycott. Really? She worked for about a year. So lots of history. Yeah, I could go on and on, but yeah, that's where I'll stop.
Wow, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, so you from Chesapeake?
From Chesapeake.
Now tell us, did you grow up 2-family household, brothers, sisters, siblings? How was growing up for you?
I don't mean to laugh because I'm just, thinking about, yeah, I laugh a lot. But anyway, yeah, I grew up in Chesapeake, single family. Okay, I got to tell you, the reason why I'm laughing is because I grew up with my mom. I have a younger sister, but my father was in Chesapeake, but I did not see this gentleman. Yeah, I didn't really see him that often, so that's why I laughed, because man was right in my city, like down the street, but I never saw him. So I grew up in a single parent.
Let me say this though. One of our guests.
Yep. His dad next door.
Dad next door, and he
from the babysitter.
Wow.
And they didn't even talk to each other like that.
They didn't talk to each other like that.
Well,
so, I get what you're saying, but yeah, I mean it happens.
Yeah, it happens. And I know we're not talking about this today, but my first conversation with him was when I got my first job teaching at Booker T. Washington in Norfolk, and he worked at the school. And he saw me. My first day, I got hired. I'm setting up my classroom, and somebody's like, Antwan. And I'm like, yo, I don't know nobody here. And then I turn around and I'm like,
wow.
But yeah, that's another show.
So y'all worked together the whole year?
Yeah, we worked together the whole year. It was the most awkward year you could ever imagine in your life.
Wow.
And actually, when the principal found out, she was like, why you ain't tell me your dad worked here? I was like, why you ain't tell me my dad worked here?
Oh man, that's hilarious. So you told us a little bit about your childhood. What were some of your influences as a child?
So really, I was the type where, I didn't, nobody else in our family had ever been to college before. So growing up, I just always knew I was going to go to college. My mom, she always said that growing up, financial aid, like formalized financial aid, like I had, wasn't available to her. So she said I had the grades to go to college. We didn't have the money. So often my mom always talked about you and your sister you're definitely going to college. So in terms of like being influenced, I was always influenced by positivity, but like true story, I would watch like A Different World, or I would watch the classic that would come on between Southern and the one they would do on NBC. I can't remember.
Gremlin.
Yeah, Gremlin and Southern, and I was in the marching band.
Gotcha.
So like in terms of like being influenced, like I was just always like, it's just one of those things where I was just like, whenever I get an opportunity, I want to try to replicate that for my own life. I want to change things. I want to, be different. So in terms of like, I just positivity, and then also like the Black college experience. And I didn't even understand what a Black college experience was, but I just knew that I was attracted to what I saw when I watched like A Different World, or even The Cosby Show, seeing like Cliff and Claire go to their homecoming or talk about this Hillman place. I was like, yeah, I don't know what they talked about, but I'm trying to be down.
I need to go there. I need to see what that's about.
Right.
Man, you dropping some gems, and we only talking for like 5 minutes so far.
So now you're in high school, and so HBCU, you knew from the get-go that's where you were going to go?
No. I had no idea. I just knew I was going to go to college. So I remember I took my PSAT, and from that, I got a college acceptance into this school in North Carolina called Catawba College.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of it, but they sent me an acceptance letter based upon my SAT score. So I was like, I guess I'm going to Catawba College, because literally I have no idea about applying, about looking, going to the college I want to. I just thought, this is where I'm going. They accepted me. But then my senior year, I took my SAT again, and I got an acceptance from a school called Roanoke College. And they offered me a track scholarship. I don't know how they knew I ran track, but I was like, yo, I got a scholarship, Mom. I'm going to Roanoke College. So we were excited. But Hampton University, the first Friday in April every year, they have this event called High School Day. Mm-hmm. So one of my boys I was in the band with, he's like, Antwan, I'm going to High School Day. It's on a Friday, and we get excused from class. So I was like, I get to go to a college campus and miss school and not get in trouble. Because my mom, she thought she was still gonna try to beat me because I'm skinny, you know what I'm saying? I was like, but wait, we can skip school and get permission. So I remember I went to High School Day, and it was just an amazing experience, because I saw Black people, like a whole array of like the Black diaspora all in one day. And you saw people that were, you can kind of tell when you go to college, like where people from by the way they're dressed, especially back in like the 90s. Mm-hmm. So you saw people, I was like, these are people from the Northeast, people from the Midwest, people from the South, people from Dirty South, people from West Coast. And I had never seen like a wide array of Blackness before. Because, growing up, you see who's around you in your family, your school, your church, if you attend church. So going to Hampton, I saw that, but I also saw like an amazing campus. And again, being in the marching band, seeing the band perform, I was just like, yeah, this is where I'm going. And I remember I applied, that was on a Friday. That Monday, I went to my guidance counselor. This is back in the 1900s. So there wasn't any online application. But
typewriter.
Right. So I went to my guidance counselor, and I said, I need an application to Hampton. There was one. I filled it out, sent it in. A few weeks later, I got accepted, and that was it.
Okay.
And that's I love that story. Somebody else on the show talked about High School Day. And that was like their influence of going there.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So you get on campus. How was your first week on campus?
First week. So I got to campus a little bit early because the band gets there a little bit earlier. So that was helpful, but I remember I got lost a lot. But once class started, there's this course called University 101 that all freshmen take.
Yeah.
And I remember this is how clueless I was, even though I had watched A Different World, even though I had watched Grambling and Southern play every year. I remember in University 101, the speaker kept talking about HBCU, like, you know, this is HBCU experience here. This HBCU, you're gonna learn this. And I just remember, like, I literally remember like saying to the person beside me, like, what's an HBCU? Like, why did they keep talking about HBCUs? And they were like,
why they keep mentioning these letters, man?
Right. I was like, yo, they going hard over this HBCU stuff. And the person beside me was like, historically Black college and university. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, look around. And I was like, wow, there are a lot of Black people here. But that's probably, that's something that when I sometimes get an opportunity to talk about college and HBCUs, where people assume the reasons why we choose to attend historically Black colleges and universities, because I chose Hampton, even though I remember seeing Blackness, I didn't choose it because it was an HBCU. I chose because I felt comfortable on campus. When I went to talk to my department, I was impressed by the political science chair. And I selected it because I just felt right there. It wasn't until I was actually enrolled till I actually realized I was in an HBCU. But that also goes to show you that the high school that I attended didn't talk about HBCUs. So there was a learning curve for me personally, but it also showed me that my high school didn't prepare me for the various types of colleges and universities that were available.
That's big that you say that, because I mean, we do, you know, that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, so we can bring awareness. Because, you know, you hear the PWI, and, you know, people try to talk down about HBCUs, but we're actually bringing this platform to successful stories so that we can radiate those stories throughout and people feel comfortable saying yes to HBCU life, you know. So
absolutely,
that's big.
And it's interesting that you brought that up as well, because a lot of times we notice that in a lot of the high schools, they're not really pumping HBCUs, you know, like that. You know, like even in the local Virginia area, I tell the educators, I think that North Carolina A&T is like a hidden secret around here. As far as the high schools, I feel like, you know, there should be a lot more promotion as far as when it comes to HBCUs in general. So it's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Even in Hampton Roads, you know, we're very fortunate to be in such close proximity to so many HBCUs. And I actually took some students on a tour of, we actually visited Hampton in Norfolk State a couple years ago. And I had not been on NSU's campus in a minute, and to go and see like not only all of the new construction on campus, new buildings.
It's totally different. We get lost.
I mean, yo, it was like, I actually was a little embarrassed because we went to Hampton at first. You know, I was talking about all this history. I was like, the history. And then we go to NSU and we see like state of the art everything. And they were like, I mean, the history's okay, but what's up with these new buildings? And I was like, yeah, I can't compete with that. But even with NSU, I know I have a younger cousin who just graduated from high school, and she's considering engineering. And to know and learn about the NEMIS program that's on campus at NSU, and even education for those who are in Hampton Roads area, not just Black students, but all students are taking advantage of the School of Education at Norfolk State University, because they're just strong programs. So they have Hampton and NSU in Hampton Roads, but for us to be close to VSU, Virginia Union, And even a little bit further up, Howard, and then you have, the Morgans and the Coppins. We're very fortunate to be in such proximity on the East Coast to so many in the, Maryland, Virginia, DC area.
Yeah. And what was your major?
I majored in political science.
Gotcha. Why did you want to major in political science?
So initially, well, I've always enjoyed politics. I've always been attracted to politics, even from being like very young, like just being very interested in like political dynasties, like the Kennedy family. I can remember being in middle school, like I keep hearing about these Kennedys, like, let me just see what's up with the Kennedy family. I even remember like when Richard Nixon passed away, I was like watching the funeral on television and my mom came to the house. She was like, you better turn that off. She watching them here. But I was just always...
Hey. Well, no, James Brown.
Right. But I just was always interested in politics. But I also believed that in order to work in politics, that one had to attend law school. So I thought, okay, I go to Hampton University. I'll major in political science with a pre-law emphasis, and then I'll go to law school. But once I actually got into my program and spoke with my professors, I realized that one, there are many different paths to working in politics, but I was just really impressed by the stories of some of my professors. One of them in particular, her name of Professor Jessie Radley. She's since passed away, but she was the first woman and first African-American mayor of Newport News, Virginia. She also was the first African-American and first woman who was president of the National League of Cities. So, this is like just very unassuming, like older woman who would come into class and she would be talking about various things. And I remember one class, she was talking about Fidel Castro, and she's like, people give Fidel Castro a bad rap because of the government in Cuba. She's like, but he's actually a sweetheart. And then she pulls out a photo album of her and Fidel Castro smoking cigars.
Wow.
Because part of her role with the National League of Cities, they did various things in all parts of the world, including Cuba. So to be able to have like that firsthand experience of people who are not only telling me what's in a book, but what they've actually lived and learned. So for me, it was just kind of groundbreaking to know that when she expressed her background, which included education, and she ended up, smoking with Fidel cigars. I ain't saying she was smoking that else. But just
rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. R.I.P. But just to see, that no matter what you decide to do with your major, you can really do anything you want, depending on what your own personal path is. But I still have that love for politics, and I have worked in the political area a little bit. I know for the city of Chesapeake, I was appointed by City Council to the Juvenile Advisory Board. Virginia Beach, I was appointed by City Council after a unsuccessful run for City Council. I was appointed by City Council as a commissioner of human rights in the city of Virginia Beach. So yeah, I've just always had an interest in working for people and representing individuals.
That's awesome. Well, while you were at Hampton, what challenges did you face?
Challenges that I faced. One challenge I faced was there was lots of women. It was a challenge, but it was also amazing because in high school, like me and my girlfriend, we were voted cutest couple. So, we would like talk to each other on the phone, like the first couple weeks of school every night saying like, we're not going to be the story of breaking up freshman year. Like, we're going to make it, girl. We're going to make this. And then after about like a couple weeks, my roommate would be like, yo, Antwan, your girlfriend's on the phone. I'm like, tell her I'll call her back. And I'm being honest. just being like totally honest, being in the marching band, you know, you have all of the amazing, beautiful women that are in the band. And then you have dancers, and then you have the flags, and then you're traveling with a football team. So you have the cheerleaders. And you know, I'm Mr. Personality, you know what I'm saying? I like to get to know people. And I was drum major in the band. So that, you know, allowed me a little bit more.
You had all control.
So that just allowed me some more exposure. So that was a challenge because, you know, I came from a very sheltered upbringing. You know, when I was in high school and middle school, elementary, I was in church like 4 or 5 nights a week, but I wasn't in church like that when I got to him. But you know my heart, I love the Lord.
Hey, what is it? You was laying them hands though. You was still
it was amazing.
Look, I said earlier in the conversation that we hung out a lot on campus.
But yo, y'all hung a lot on Hampton's campus, but we hung a lot on Norfolk's campus because I'm like, these Hampton girls, like, you gotta like tap dance, do a backflip, and a hula hoop to get a number out here. I'm like, I just want to go where women just want to talk and friendly. So we always loved NSU. But to get back on task, another challenge that I had was I was generally smart, or I guess I am generally smart. So I didn't really have to study a lot in high school. But getting to college, I realized that I did not know how to study. And I just assumed that I would just do well because I did well in high school, which is something that people who challenge HBCUs a lot will say it's not as rigorous, which I think is so, that's just like an inane thought to me. Like, but a lot of people, and I've had conversations with people who will say that they don't believe HBCUs are as rigorous. I actually had somebody tell me that last weekend because he said he knew somebody who was an athlete and he rarely did work, and he graduated. But the gentleman who told me is a former football player at a PWI who said the reason he knew this story is because he was like, he didn't do any work in college and he graduated. And I'm like, so if it happened to you at your PWI, but all PWIs don't have to fall under that umbrella, why would you do that to HBCUs? But, you know, I realized I didn't know how to study. And I would probably say just my confidence level in terms of really believing that I was as good as other students. Because once I got that awakening, which I remember clearly, it was a Friday night. Me and some friends were going to a party. This was freshman year, so we had to catch the bus to the party. And we took a shortcut through the 24-hour study room, and there were people in there. And that was so confusing to me, like as a freshman. Like I was just like, it's Friday, it's 11 o'clock. And I remember saying like, what are they doing in here? And I remember somebody was like, shh, we're studying. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. That 24-hour room used to be deep.
Yeah, deep. And I can say this now because, you know, I've grown and matured, but as part of like, you know, me not being used to it, I thought that was something that white kids did on television. I didn't realize there were people who actually didn't get less than an A or went to 24-hour study, you know, 7 days a week. I mean, I just didn't realize that because that wasn't my experience, or I thought that was just something that was corny. Which sounds so odd now to think it's corny, right? To study, but you know, yeah, that was my experience.
Now, I mean, that's cool. You had your crew that you hung out with. Did you have any friends where y'all kept each other on track and y'all really had to check each other, or let's say, who was your favorite professor besides that that young lady that you had that Fidel Castro experience? Maybe there were some professors that kept you on track.
Yeah, I definitely had lots of professors that kept me on track, who I still am able to communicate with today. One of them was a sociology professor. She still teaches at Hampton. She's an endowed professor of sociology. Her name is Dr. Zena McGee. And then there was another professor. He was an attorney Winder, Charles Winder. And what I appreciated about these people was, once I got to Hampton and I realized that everybody wasn't my story. So, because I was first generation student and I was Black and I was influenced by people in media back then, I thought Black people didn't really go to college. I thought we were all we were all coming up together. I didn't realize till I got there that, I had friends whose parents and grandparents and great grandparents had either gone to Hampton, just like on the Cosby Show, or at other institutions around the country.
Right.
And then also having friends who just came from money. My mom, I'm proud of my mom. She was hardworking. She worked for the post office, put me through school, put my sister through school. Shout out to my sister. She's a therapist with her own practice in Northern Virginia. Shout out to my moms too. What up, moms?
Yo, my Dukes.
Absolutely. But just to know that everybody didn't have my story. So it caused me to really probably second semester freshman year to really say you know what, Antwan, this isn't just some dream that you're experiencing. This is actually something that can set you up for the rest of your life if you do well here. So I did have that core group of friends who I was able to call on to say, I have to study for this test. I don't know what to do. Who should I go to? And we had a small little unit where we would be able to say, you know what, I met with somebody in the academic services building where they have tutoring, which is, again, now working in education, knowing that all colleges and universities have some sort of academic center. But then, especially, the ego and the pride of being generally smart, you're I'm not going to tutoring.
Right. I don't need that.
I don't need that, but just fortunately had a group of brothers and sisters who, especially the ladies, they would say Antwan, just take your narrow ASS over to the academic services building because your mom will try to beat you, sir. Just do what you need to do. You can't afford to get beat or to fail. Right. So fortunately, I had that unit, and being in the marching band and being a drum major, being a leader, our band director, who was probably my greatest influence, and he has unfortunately since passed away, but the band director at Hampton at that time was Mr. Barney Smart. He would always say that if you're going to be a leader in this band and you're going to be standing up in front of a few hundred people telling them, what they should be doing, you have to represent yourself. And that's both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So fortunately, I had strong professors and a great group of friends who ensured that we all progress together.
Gotcha. That's cool, man.
It's amazing.
So you graduate.
Yeah.
Pop-sci. Next steps, what you do? You stay in Hampton Roads, or what job? What happened?
So graduated, was very excited, but I knew I needed to work. So I was applying everywhere. And a month after graduation to the day, I got a job as a claims adjuster with Progressive Auto Insurance.
That sounds about right.
What'd you say?
I said that sounds about right.
Yeah, absolutely. Which at the time, I felt like Diddy at the time because I had just graduated and I was making $38,000, and we got bonuses. So I ended up making $45,000 that first year. Single, my own apartment. I bought a Corvette, not a Corvette, a Camaro. I was Diddy. You couldn't tell me I wasn't 2003 Diddy, because I was just I was wearing my fur to the mailbox because I was yo, I'm balling out. But and I was just excited to work. But I realized after a while, after you go to school and you start talking to people, and you start talking to like your friends and your classmates about what they're doing, and they're pursuing their dreams. And I wanted that immediate, money. I realized that, claims adjusting wasn't what my forte was. Also because when people get in car accidents, claims adjusters are supposed to like go to like car lots and junkyards and like get underneath cars and take pictures. But I was fresh, you know what I'm saying? That was Ralph Lauren out. And I was like, you want me to get underneath a car? I remember my supervisor would always say, like, Antwan, like, we can't use these. Like, I don't know if this is for you. And before I got fired, I was like, okay, I need to figure out something, what I'm gonna do. And my mom she didn't raise me to be the type to quit before I had another job. So
smart woman.
Absolutely. So like just through like, I was applying, I was praying. And at church, one of my friends who I graduated from Hampton with, who was teaching, he said to me, I don't know if you're still looking for a job, but my principal is looking for some teachers. And this was like the week before school started. And if you want, I'll give you your name. That happened. I interviewed. Interview was like 2 minutes. Because school was about to start. And I sat down and she was like, okay, let me see your resume. And I was like, I majored in political science. I have aspirations. She was like, yeah. You're going to be teaching Algebra 1. I was like, all right. Now, so many things happened that year. I had to learn how to teach. I essentially met my father, which
I was about to say, was that the year you met your daddy?
That's all that's happening at the same time.
That's a hell of a year.
Wow.
Oh, that was a year.
Hey, she was just hiring. Hey, look, she was just hiring anybody. She hired them. Yeah.
Well, this gentleman, and this is not to talk about working professionals, no matter what they did. But he actually worked as a custodian at the school. But that was another thing that was like, really made me think, because I'm like, I've lived my whole 20-something years without this man in my life. And I end up a teacher, and this man is working at the school as a custodian. So I just thought like the dynamic, was interesting. So now, again, this is my first year teaching. I thought that would be inspirational to my students.
No.
So I told them this whole heartfelt story about, I didn't grow up with my dad. And I know some of you might come from single parent homes, but you can make it. I was like, I actually met my father right here in this school about a week ago. He works as a custodian, and they could cut me up. They were just like, which one is it? That was the longest school year of my life. But it actually pointed me into the direction of education. So even though I didn't stay teaching, long in the classroom, it really put me on a path to finding out what my purpose is in education. And it has a lot to do with what I'm actually doing, all the things I did up until what I'm doing right now.
Nice. So tell us, what are you doing right now?
Yeah. So currently I work for the National Education Association. I work as a senior policy analyst for higher education and workforce issues. So any type of legislation that is passed by the federal government dealing with higher education, our organization being one of the largest unions, labor unions actually the largest labor union in the country, any type of congressperson who is introducing new law will get our take on that law or legislation and ask for input. So part of my job is, for example, before I joined you all, I was on a call with some individuals prepping for a call with Secretary Cardona later this week, where we're actually going to talk about public service loan forgiveness. And so anything dealing with, my specific role, student debt issues, HBCUs, MSI, other MSIs, or just higher education in general is what I work on. But I also do some work focused on Black men in higher education. My dissertation focus was Black male student success in higher education. And so often when we talk about Black men in education, we often talk about how many Black men don't graduate, or we say, you know, only 40% of Black men graduate from college, only this, only. But when we do that, we discredit those of us who actually do persist and make it through. And rather than looking at those who didn't graduate to help Black men graduate from college, I believe that we should talk to Black men who did graduate to find out what commonalities we had so that we can help other colleges and universities ultimately help other Black men graduate from college. And part of that is linked to my purpose. The reason why I'm still in education and I still do this type of work is because when we think about all of the things that happen and have been happening, but especially in the past few years with so many Black men being killed by unarmed Black men and women being killed by police, but especially Black men, you know, I really believe that it has a lot to do with people who don't look like us not viewing us as people. They view us as or they view us as threats. Right. or monsters. And what I really want to do and what I'm tying in my work and my purpose is to help humanize Black men through education, because I really believe there's been a dehumanization process for Black men for decades. I mean, not even decades, for centuries. But part of what I'm doing in my work in higher education is to help humanize us. And part of it is being able, I mean, I believe you brothers are doing the same thing with this podcast by not just looking at, you know, the numbers and the statistics of who attends where and why, but really listening to people's stories, because that helps humanize us so that people can start to see that we are people just like everyone else. We have similar experiences. We have a lot more things in common than we do different, but this is how I choose to do it. So, you know, I'm grateful for these types of platforms where I can share my story, because it could not only help more students be interested in HBCUs, but it could also help people who don't have any understanding of HBCUs. Exactly. That are, you know, it's not something that's just this made up thing where we just go and talk about, you know, Black power and then we leave and we go home. You know, these are actually like real conversations. It's real learning that's happening. We're real people who have real experience. So I could talk about this all day. I'm gonna stop because I'm sure you have more questions.
No, I mean, you know, I think that's cool because one of the things that you said within that is, so I sit on the board of BCDI, which is Black Child Development Institute. Hughes and I are both in education as well. Yeah. And BCDI, the national organization, we came out with a publication about 2 years ago that said being Black is enough. And it was a 2-year study of the things that are working and highlighting those things across the country versus just looking at what's not working. Mm-hmm. So I think humanizing education, humanizing Black men, essentially recognizing equity is definitely remarkable. I mean, I appreciate your work.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Well, it's crazy. You said that you wrote your dissertation on that. I actually wrote my thesis on the disparity of African American males finishing in colleges. So it's ironic that you said that.
Yeah, it's so, I would say now more than any, this is the time where we should be not only promoting Black men in education, but we should also be promoting and highlighting historically Black colleges and universities, because, you know, not to change the conversation to be so political, but specifically yeah, I know, I can't help it. But specifically with the, you know, Chauvin verdict, I really think that that is an opportunity where the spotlight is on Black men again. But I believe that could be sort of the paradigm shift that calls us to think about education and Black men in a different light. Now, I promote higher education in general, so it doesn't have to be an HBCU. If you find a college university that you think is right for you, more power to you. However, I believe that you should seek out every opportunity to visit and talk to HBCUs first before you make a final decision, because they are hidden gems that are becoming less hidden and more people are finding out about them. And HBCUs are now becoming more diverse. And actually, data suggests that HBCU faculty is more diverse than faculty at all colleges and universities. And while I have an opportunity, because I just want to share this in case I don't have an opportunity to share this, I had, and this isn't pitting HBCUs against PWIs, because like, what's the point? Like, if we're all Black people who are just trying to, create legacy for the next generation. So I would never want to like create arguments for HBCUs versus PWIs. But I had this young woman who attended a selective college who again said that she just would never attend an HBCU. She would never send her children to an HBCU because she wants them to be able to be employable afterwards. I mean, all the things that we have all heard before. But when she said, as she was saying that, I looked up her university and I said, "Madam," that's when I'm about to hit them with facts. When I hit them with the madam, I was like, "Madam, are you aware that the Black students who are admitted to your university have lower SAT scores and lower ACT scores and lower GPAs than the other students? And actually over 2,000 white students were rejected who had higher credentials than every Black student that was admitted." So if what you're saying about HBCUs is true, then what must also be true is that Black students in general, no matter what college they go to, are inferior academically and intellectually. Now, of course, she said that was the most ridiculous thing she ever heard. But in her mind, I really believe that a lot of people, even our own people, our beautiful Black brothers and sisters,
own people,
they are brainwashed and whitewashed to believe that colleges and universities that were created for and are currently ran by Black people, they believe that that is inferior. And they won't admit it, but they really believe that what is Black is inferior, but they don't even realize it. But when I spit the own facts to them about their own institutions, I was like, well, yeah, Blacks at your school are inferior also. Then it turns into, well, I need to see where you got that from. That probably isn't peer reviewed. That doesn't sound legit. I mean, I would put my HBCU education up against anybody in the world. Like, there's nobody who had the experience like I had. And I have been on hiring committees where I've interviewed people who graduated from Hampton all the way to Harvard. And I will tell you, not just because it's an HBCU and not just because I attended Hampton, but in the two examples I can think of Harvard graduates, yeah, these people, like, they needed, they might have, Paul Mooney once said, yeah, maybe you went to jail, Yale, but you should have went to jail because maybe you would have learned something. Like, that is so true about some people who are so smart that they dumb.
Right.
I'm like, we at HBCUs, they teach us how to dress for an interview. They teach us how early to get there. And I'm like, how you gonna show up late and not looking presentable? And, this person just wasn't prepared for the interview. And I'm like, some people just ride hard off of their school's name, where I believe at HBCUs, we learn the full and total package of what it means and what we're going to need to be successful. And last thing, and then I'll take a break from talking. I also believe that when we have an opportunity to talk to students who are coming up about our experiences, we should talk to as many students as possible. So if you attend church, if you have a relationship with your high school, talk to those students, because those stories could be the difference between a student choosing a school that's just okay, where they feel comfortable, versus an HBCU where they probably would have been in the exact place they need to be in order to do what they want to do.
Bro, hey, look, you hit on about 5 different questions we was about to ask. but that's it. That's it. And that is the reason why. So Hughes brought the podcast to me because he wanted to highlight people at Norfolk State. And I said, Hughes, we got to tell about everybody at all HBCUs.
Right.
And it's exactly what you said, man. We hope, our goal is to increase engagement, enrollments, and endowments for HBCUs.
Absolutely.
And we pray that these stories encourages a mom or a dad to feel comfortable with hearing their child out about going to an HBCU, or encouraging them, or graduating student wanting to say, you know what, let me explore this HBCU life. And you hit it right on the head, man. That's what this podcast is for.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely needed. And I, graduated from Hampton. My sister graduated from NSU. My cousin, who is a principal in Hampton Roads right now, who's also working on his PhD. He is a graduate of NSU. So I'm a firm believer in not only HBCUs, but especially, between Hampton and Norfolk. That's home for me.
Yeah. I definitely feel Norfolk State don't get the respect it deserves, though. But that's another podcast.
Right.
Hey, we gotta have a podcast of everybody jump on if you feel like your HBCU don't get the respect it deserves.
Right.
Where you at, Elizabeth City? Where you at?
Which my sister wanted to go to Elizabeth City, but after paying for Hampton, my mom was like, yeah, you ain't gonna be living on campus, so
you gotta figure this local thing out.
But my sister still loves NSU, and every time NSU advances to NCAA championship, but Hampton's not in, my sister's all of a sudden she turned into a Spartan. I'm like, where's all this Spartan energy when you was in school?
Man, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. This was awesome. This is really, really, really good. So how can people find you? What do you have going on also?
Absolutely. So you can definitely reach out to me on Facebook, which I believe you can find me by searching Antwan Lamont. Yes, Antwan Lamont on Facebook. On Instagram, it is Antwan.Lamont. And that's ANTWAN and then LAMONT. On Twitter, I am at DRJAYP1. Yeah. And in terms of what I have going on, so I mentioned I do some work related to Black men in education. I'm actually planning a conference for Black men in education. You can find it on Eventbrite. You can search shifting the narrative matters, because we're shifting the narrative of Black men in education, not the narrative of why we don't, but we're shifting that narrative to why we do. So shifting the narrative matters on Eventbrite. The event's going to be September 30th from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. We're going to have some prominent speakers in education. And then I also am a dissertation mentor. So for not just men, but particularly for men who are completing their PhD or EDD, and they need some assistance, that is something that I am doing as well. So just trying to stay busy, just trying to stay active. But of course, all of it is to humanize our experiences. And I'm doing that through education. And last thing, me and one of my good friends, her name is Dr. Kristen Moore. She's a graduate of Howard University. We have a podcast called Black People Homework, where we talk about issues, pop culture, but particularly education issues through the lens of Black educators. and that's available on Apple Podcast, and you can search the BPH podcast.
Nice. What now? Say that podcast again.
Yeah. It's Black People Homework.
Black People Homework.
But you can find the BPH, so Black People Homework BPH podcast, or you can just search through my name or Christian Morris. Search through her name on in the search bar.
And definitely keep me updated on that conference in September. Let's talk offline. I would love to figure out how to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
I'm in education. I'm closing the vacancy gap when it comes to teachers.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's talk.
Definitely.
This was really good, man. This is amazing. So we definitely appreciate you coming on for us, man.
I appreciate you, brothers. Again, I think you're doing amazing work. I don't even know if you all realize how valuable what this is that you are doing. And I'm going to tell everybody I can about it. I think I found y'all's IG page earlier, just so I can stay updated. And before I leave, of course, I have to shout out the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and have to shout out the brothers of Kappa Kappa Psi National Honorary Band Fraternity Incorporated. So I just want to shout out all of my LBs and brothers before I log off.
I appreciate it, man.
Dope.
Thank you.
Dope.
Definitely, we'll let you know when this gets uploaded, so you can tell you people. We appreciate you coming through, man.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it. And like I said, I'm going to email y'all the few folks I'm thinking about who I think would be great guests for you as well.
All right. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.
This is the segment where Hughes and I, we call Lesson of the Day, where we take away some key lessons that we just experienced. If you have any key takeaways, some lessons of the day that you want to share with us, make sure you hit us up on Instagram at Black to School Podcast, Facebook at Black, the number 2 podcast. There you go. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit us up on all social media and your favorite app platform. Email us blacktoschoolpodcast@gmail. If you have anybody that you think we should interview, make sure you email us, get us their information, and we'll reach out to them.
Right.
My lesson of the day, he said something slick. He said, and I appreciate it.
What was that?
He said, I didn't go to Hampton because it was Black. I went because I felt comfortable.
That was big, though. That was a strong statement.
And I want people to be. I want. The reason why I like it is because sometimes you go where you want to go, where everybody knows your name. You might not know my name, but you know my struggle. You might not know my name, but you know my temperament. You might not know my name, but I may look like your cousin, your son, your uncle, your brother. Right. You may not know my name, but you could feel my grandmother's essence. You could feel my mama. You know I got a daddy.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I thought I ain't even put it like that. Because you hear people all the time. We've heard guests say, I don't know, when I just got on campus, I just felt something. Like I felt like I was at home.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable.
Yeah. It's a common theme.
That was my takeaway.
Yeah. So for me, what I took away from it was Black excellence.
Yeah.
From he mentioned a professor that smoked cigars with Fidel Castro.
Cigars.
I mean, yeah, smoked cigars with Fidel Castro. I mean, and then Rosa Parks, the history that he dropped about Hampton University. Rosa Parks, working at Hampton University for a year. Right. It's just, Black excellence, just, continuously, is continuously going. And for him, like you said, to go there because he was comfortable, and just seeing, even on the high school day, all the plethora of Black culture,
Right.
Beautiful Black people.
Right.
So for me, that was the lesson of the day. It was this was a great interview.
You know what's another one, Hughes?
Yes.
Another one, just real quick. Normalizing Black men through education. Come on. Like normalizing Black men through education.
That was powerful though, man. That was powerful.
Come on, man.
Because
That's what I had to say.
Because we always look, we always talk about in education,
the statistics.
The gap.
We talk about the statistics.
It's always the black male, So, for him to now talk about in reverse, let's talk about the success stories of Black males.
Let's study that. They are successful. What did they do so we can figure out how to tell everybody else what to do? Yeah.
We've had successful Black males on this podcast, so the story must be told, and we're definitely going to be one of those platforms that's going to do it. So definitely come back, because we got a great lineups for you. So
we out of here. We appreciate y'all, man. We love y'all. Tell some people we ain't doing this for us, bro. We don't get paid for this. We don't get paid for this, and we take time away from our families to do this because we believe in the stories that need to be told. So make sure y'all tell some people some more, so our wives don't feel like what we're doing is in vain. Please tell them. Subscribe, like, share, hit us up. I'm at Kedar. That's Wolf. What's your IG?
Wolf Strong.
Wolf Strong. Wolf
Strong forever.
Will Strong forever, and at Black to School, the #2 school podcast. Thank y'all.
Take a look into next week's episode.
Actually, my greatest accomplishment thus far is that I was able to not only be a first-time, college student in my immediate family, but I was able to shatter the glass ceiling within my family by becoming the first to earn a doctorate in education. And I just earned that in March. So I just defended my dissertation in education in March. So right now that stands as my greatest achievement thus far.